Wait. Okay. Now we're going. I
Now
think
we're visible.
yes. So I don't
Before
think
we
they
were-
heard anything we've said before then either.
Oh, so we were congratulating ourselves for being 30 seconds early for nothing.
Just gonna pop on my phone.
Hi.
Check.
2 people. Woohoo. Woohoo.
Yes. Okay.
More,
Yes, we are.
Just you're making sure that it's okay on your end.
Yes.
But if you leave that up, then we will be one of our own viewers, and that's kind of sad. Andreas and Chris, woohoo!
Hello.
Nice to see you. Well, see your names and your profile pictures. They're lovely.
Yes.
So the name of this video of this stream is "The Status Is Not Quo," and that is a quote from Dr. Horrible Sing-Along Vlog.
Yes.
If you caught that reference, well done. How does that line go?
I can't remember exactly. No.
It's like Dr. Horrible is talking. He's played by Neil Patrick Harris. About how the world is messed up.
Yes.
Like, the status is not quo.
Look, the fish rots from the head, and like right, he talks about like society being rotten, and then he goes like, because, the fish rots from the head, and so sometimes maybe it would be best to just cut the head off
of society.
It's not a perfect metaphor.
Yeah, it's a really great story.
Yeah.
It's very short and you can find it online for free. But yeah, Morten and I really do talk a lot about the things of the world that bug us and I'll let you jump into it. Tell us about the video that you were watching before when you were putting the kids to bed.
And yeah, I was just watching. Oh, now I can never remember. So there is this YouTube channel that I really like, called Innuendo Studios.
Yeah.
Who has this series called the Alt-Right Playbook, where he just uploaded the first video in that series for like a year, and it's sort of hard to listen to, because it is basically picking apart about how, like, especially in America, but it's becoming a thing here too, in some ways, is that like basically what politics has become is white people attacking each other, but doing so through the medium of minorities, like both sides basically, like both sides experience minorities like as pawns to be used in the struggle between the ruling white people.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so nobody's actually helping center minorities in the story. It's almost like emotional porn in a way of, look, feel so bad for them and continue the status quo where they stay suffering and we stay trying to figure out a way to help them, but we care about them more than the other side does.
Yeah, and he talks about how like white people grow up with this like schoolyard definition of what racism is, when in reality, like he said, like there is no such thing as not racist. It's like you are either openly racist, collaborating with racists, a moderate who is trying to win over the collaborators with moral arguments, meaning you don't actually have to do anything to stop the actual racists, or you're anti-racist. It's like, and those are your only options. If you are not anti-racist, what you're doing does does reinforce the status quo, which greatly advantages certain kinds of people, mainly white straight men.
Even just the word status quo makes me just go,
Yeah.
because like I've written so many poems about it and shared so many thoughts about it, of how like the status quo of so many churches is a few people do all of the work, get burnt out.
Yeah.
The new people come in all fired up and excited, and then they get put to work until they're all burnt out. And
Yeah.
like, and it's just stuff being swept under the rug. But it was the first time that I ever heard you get so passionate and fired up about it. Was when we were hanging out with some friends, and Jordan Peterson came up, and our friend was like, he's got some really good ideas.
And I actually saw another like short video by someone else. So there's this other guy who I've watched a bunch of stuff. He calls himself Destiny on the internet, and he sort of does political commentary. And he's a guy I watched quite a lot of his stuff in the last couple of weeks, and then I was sort of like, he's a bit too much for me sometimes.
Like too angry.
Yeah, and it's also like he's just, but it's like, but I really like, because he really fights back. Like his main thing is like just going after like the alpha male type dude bros, with just like, because he can actually like sum up, like he gets snappy counter arguments to their snappy arguments, because that's something that is severely lacking, like, which is like an issue with people like Jordan Peterson, is that he says very quick and simple truths, which are most of the time not even true. But in order to pick them apart, you need to talk for a lot longer and know a lot more than he does. That also means that like also the audience doesn't know that, and so you need to explain a lot of stuff that the audience might not understand, and it's really easy for him to latch on to the slightest thing that is hard to grasp in what you're saying, and then use that to just shoot you down in the mind of his audience.
But what are some of the points that he makes?
One of like his big the thing is, and so the thing that Destiny was saying about Jordan Peterson is that he only makes declarative statements, not normative statements, as in he only talks about how things are, not how they should be. He leaves the how they should be up to the listeners, which gives him plausible deniability when his listeners keep interpreting how it should be as white supremacist patriarchy.
Not to mention the transphobic stuff.
Yes.
Which is literally stirring up violence against LGBTQ people.
Yeah. So that's like a big thing.
Does he tackle racism at all?
Not that much. Jordan Peterson is more into transphobia, misogyny, and climate denialism.
Oh yeah.
But that's all stuff that, yeah.
I will just take this one real quick. Okay, says, so do they also give good tips on how to be anti-racist? The best, I'll go first on that, is the best thing that I've heard is talk to minorities, not just one, talk to many. Like, for us to just be quiet and hear their experiences and not try to fit them into our experiences, but just let them stand on their own.
Yeah. And that was so the Innuendo Studios video, which I didn't quite have time to finish before it started. So I have like a few minutes left on it, but like that was, from more the political perspective. But there he talked about how like if you like stop trying to convince the white moderates to like or the white collaborators to stop collaborating with racists and just turn around and actually talk to the minorities and the victims and find your voters there instead of fighting over the same white voters as the racists are trying to get to. Like that was one of his main points. It's just like, just stop making it all about the white people. Like, accept that, hey, I'm white, and that means certain things that I have to deal with and come to terms with in how the world relates to me and how I relate to the world. And then from there, let's seek out other people and get their voices heard. Yeah.
I'm actually having a conversation pretty soon with a lady named Ali Henney, and we're going to talk about decentering white voices.
Yeah.
Says, yeah, I get that. Since talking to people from other backgrounds, I've learned a lot about the places I live and how they are hurtful for people I never knew were hurting.
Yeah. And Oki also said this: the trouble is always that the truth is not a catchphrase. The catchphrases do well in
riling people up. Oh my gosh!
Yep,
that is absolutely 100,000% true.
That's
the problem with memes, is just making things so simple that it's like stupid to not agree.
I'm pretty sure. I think that was actually another one in the Innuendo Studios series, the Alt-Right Playbook. Is just the whole thing of like, they sum up their ideas like very simplistically, but in a way where you need to put a lot, like the effort in dismantling their argument is so much higher than the effort in making the argument, which means that they can always stay ahead of you, because by the time you dismantled their first bad argument, they've made another 3. And they can just keep them coming because they don't bother about facts. So
anything is possible when you lie.
Yeah. And this, yes, it's uncomfortable to realize that you are part of the problem when you are trying to fix it, but are going about it all wrong. Yeah.
It's basically like, how I understand it is, when we're talking to them, we don't have, it's like when someone's grandma dies and you're like, oh, I had a gerbil die once. Like, nobody cares about your effing gerbil. Like, shut up. Let them talk about their grandma.
Yeah. Like, and it's really hard, like the whole thing of like, I'm trying, like so many times the trying to show empathy by trying to relate it to your own experiences, like, can come from a genuinely good place, but it also does sort of devalue what they are saying, because most of the time, like, not always, of course, like that's another big problem with this, is that because we're talking about systems and generalizations and statistics, like, so there is always a variance in this. So you may have had some experiences that were harder than the experiences that some people of color had, and that's fair. That does not mean that white supremacy and white privilege do not exist. It just means that some people are affected to different degrees by it, and that's really difficult. And there's a systematic oppression. And that's really the thing.
And it's like, okay, but how do we identify the system, tear it down, build it back up better?
And Oakville said, yeah, you can talk about your gerbil some other time, and you can be sad about it, but there is a time and place.
Yeah. Martin, I highly recommend reading Letter from Birmingham Jail. You mentioned the moderate.
Yeah.
The person who's like, why can't we all just get along? Why can't we just slide down the middle road? And this is one of the things. Oppressed people cannot remain oppressed forever. The yearning for freedom eventually manifests itself, and that is what has happened to the American Negro. Something within has reminded him of his birthright of freedom, and something without has reminded him that it can be gained. Wait, this isn't exactly the part that I wanted.
Oops. I see something like complacency there, so that seems. But yeah, anyway, you can keep looking at that. Yes.
Oh yeah, here we go. We who engage in nonviolent direct action are not the creators of tension. We merely bring to the surface the hidden tension that is already alive. We bring it out into the open where it can be seen and dealt with. Like a boil that can never be cured so long as it is covered up, but must be opened with all its ugliness to the natural medicines of air and light. Injustice must be exposed with all the tension its exposure creates to the light of human conscience and the air of national opinion before it can be cured.
Yeah.
So that's something in decentering whiteness, and not just whiteness, but the heteronormative.
Yeah.
Like letting the stories of their injustices speak for themselves.
Yeah. Now we have some people, like the chat is talking a lot about like other ableism issues.
Oh,
which is it goes into it a lot.
The world
too.
is made for people who fit into the box.
Like I said, I just noticed in my brain immediately, I'm like, I hate it when people do that about asthma when I know they have a fraction of the issues I have. It's so ingrained. Yeah. And it's sort of funny because that is true. Like that's the thing. But of like do that. But then it's sort of like, I'm not picking on you. This is just an interesting observation. Is that you took the thing that we were talking about and you made it about you, which is something that we do all the time. So I'm like, it's beautiful like illustration of this is like, it's so frustrating when people take an issue and make it about themselves, and your response is, like this issue that I have that other people keep making about themselves. Again, not picking on you, because I would have, like, I could have thought of, okay, good. She agrees with me. Yes, that's her point. Good.
Yeah, I've had people of color that were considering being a guest on my channel that said, I was really relieved to see that I wasn't the only one. Like I was maybe not going to follow through if you just wanted to have a token luck person on your channel. I don't think they used that word.
Yeah.
But it's probably fits.
Yeah. Andrea said that, talked about how systematic oppression is really a reality that he sees as a disability advocate. And Chris of Extempore Art said, being non-neurotypical, it can be painful not to share experience in relation. It takes time to work on it, but this is certainly an area that I don't have experience of. Well, yeah, that's true too. That's like certain like, yeah,
you're like that. You're adjacent to those things, so you really do need to like process things out loud.
Yeah, that like wanting to process things, like like for yourself figure out, like, what do I know that makes it easier for me to relate to what I'm hearing, and then you say that thing out loud when it is not actually helpful to say the thing out loud, but it is helpful for you in your own mind to sort of like build the bridges.
I guess
I feel like we need someone with experience of this to speak of this. I know you've had a few on the podcast speak about it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to my conversation with Ali. That's going to be pretty good. And I'm reaching out to more people to share their experiences.
People heard about the concept of poor tax.
Poor tax, is that like, I think that might kind of be something along the lines of how Obamacare was a really big failure in Utah because people fought against it so hard. So my parents, who couldn't afford healthcare, were going to be taxed. We're going to be fined for not being able to afford the thing that they were supposed to have. Like when you make just enough money.
Yeah, that sort of thing. I think like poor tax is more general. It's just the whole thing of like, you can't afford nice things that last. So you have to buy cheap things
that fall apart.
That fall apart. So instead of buying one thing that lasts for 10 years, you have to keep buying things that cost half as much but only last a quarter of the time. So you end up spending double. Or also things like we can't afford to buy a house, so we have to keep renting. And because we have to keep renting, we will never be able to save up enough money to buy a house.
Yeah. I read a post like that earlier. This lady was like, I just was crying when I realized I've spent this huge sum of money in rent, and they told me that I can't afford to buy a house. Like, I've bought the equivalent of a huge house already with all the rent I've paid over the years.
Yeah, you're always paying someone's mortgage. It's either your own or your landlord's. That's what was this now?
Chris says, we spend times with ourselves and a hero of our own story. Have to remember other stories being different to our own. We often relate it to ourselves, but yes, not always helpful.
Yeah.
ADHD being a superpower is pure BS, according to me. So, do people try to downplay how stressful it is to look at the world so much differently than people?
Yeah,
is that what
here, like, yeah, Chris comes in and like fills that out. ADHD helps me in some areas, but completely makes everything else really difficult, if not impossible.
Yeah,
that's the thing. And you get this sort of like stuff of like, oh, I've heard it called inspiration porn.
Oh,
where
yeah,
you just look what this person with this issue can do. And it's like, yeah, but it's everything.
Debilitating every other thing, parts of their life. Like,
yeah. Oh yes, Portax can afford the low quality, so it falls apart. Terry Pratchett quotes as well in his writing style. Yeah. So, like I said, it can be so hard to just listen and not try to contribute or relate, but it's so important to actually listen, both to make the other feel heard as well as to actually hear them.
Yeah, I've been so guilty of that when I was younger. I'm getting better as I get older, but really just not listening to people, just waiting till it's my turn to talk because they made me think of something and it's very imperative that I say it. Oh, Chris said, everyone is a little ADHD. That's like people saying, oh, I'm so depressed. Oh, I like to organize my desk. I'm so OCD. Like, oh. It's so.
And not to talk about how autism plays a medical card in murder trials.
How I want to hear more about that. Do you know about this?
I do not. So Andreas, please elaborate.
Yes.
But yeah, I can see how I can sort of make guesses, but again, as we talked about, we shouldn't make guesses about other people's experiences.
Okay, says, and then people wonder why autism has a bad rep. There's just so many bad representations of it in media that it's just like, oh, quirky person.
Yeah, and it's this whole thing of like, and with everything, because the media, or the media represents it as the whole, oh yes, it's for this person it's a superpower because we are stuck in a society where people have to justify their existence.
Yeah.
Which is really the big problem with all of this, is the idea that a human life is not justified in and of itself, but that you have to actually contribute something in order to be valued.
And like,
that is the problem.
If your special skill is something useful to society, then you're worth it. But what if your special thing is collecting erasers?
Or what if you don't have a special thing?
Or what if you don't have a special thing?
Yeah, so it brings a black card over people on the spectrum, right? So that like it's something that can just like, it makes you like, it puts a certain it puts a certain idea in people's heads of who you are and thus what you are capable of, or incapable of.
In the context of crime and murder trials, is it that like, oh, they're autistic people are more likely to be the murderer or something? Or am I misreading that? Oh, they point us out as killers? What?
Yeah. The best media coverage of autism I've seen is the British series The A Word.
If it was on Netflix, I'd check it out.
Yeah.
It's amazing how wonderful some shows can be to help understand things. Like I really really enjoyed watching this show about the first black woman millionaire, and her hair care products and everything. Like you learn so much about people's perspective. Oh, it's
When it
getting
is
warm.
well done,
When it is well done and it is
and done
actually
by people who actually have that. Like, well,
Yeah.
we just finished Miss Marvel,
yeah.
which is like,
I really learned something about Pakistani culture and history and what they've been through.
yeah, that is really cool. Let's see. That is so true, and I try not to put my worth in selling art. I may look productive painting a lot, but other things take a back seat. Yeah. While others without ADHD appear, keeping up appearances, to juggle it all effortlessly. That's another thing too. It's just that, like,
The constant comparison.
yeah, and that like, of course, like we all struggle in silence and in private, like to varying degrees, of course. But the thing is, very few people are comfortable struggling in public. Um, that's one of the things that I feel like is so great about you, Katie, is that, like, of course, you don't put all your struggles on YouTube, but you've never been scared of showing your audience that you are struggling with certain things in
Well,
life.
I've been scared, but I just did it anyway.
Yeah. Because you serve as a reminder for a lot of people, I hope, that yeah, no one's got it all together. That, and again, that's in degrees, and it's important to listen to the struggles that other people have and don't compare them to our own struggles.
Yeah. I mean, I think I probably have said it a few times, but it was the 6th of January, the attack on the Capitol by American terrorists trying to overthrow the election and reinstate Trump. And I was like, you know what? Forget you guys. I don't care what you think. I'm gonna stand up for LGBTQ people. I'm gonna stand up for a whole bunch of things I never thought I'd stand up for, because
And
I don't want to work to earn your good graces anymore.
and that's where you moved from, like, in the whole spectrum that he talked about, like he was speaking specifically about racism, but all these things, from like the whole, you spent some time as a collaborator, then you spent some time as a moderate. That was the thing that tipped you over into being anti
Yeah, I was a moderate for too
transphobic,
long.
anti-racist,
Anti-fascist.
yes. I mean, that sums it up really well, because he like that video that I'm mentioning. I really recommend people just checking it out by themselves. Innuendo Studios, but he brings up how, like, yeah, it's all about fascism. The thing is, fascism, like, because he says the thing that we keep forgetting, like the schoolyard definition of racism is cruelty, while the actually useful definition of racism as white supremacy is about power. And he talks about how fascism wants hard power. It wants enemies.
Oops, sorry about that.
He said, like, some early fascism was focused around being anti-communist. But the problem is that communism is an idea and an ideology that can be abandoned, which means it's hard to properly unite people behind you if the enemy that you're uniting against could just stop being your enemy at any time. And that's why the right focuses so hard on on identity politics, on things that people cannot change about themselves, to make them the enemy, because that way. And he said, and that is, intriguingly enough, the proof that the right don't actually believe that being transgender is a choice. because if they believed that transgender people could just change and stop being transgender, they would not be useful as an enemy. Which is like,
I mean,
huh.
America is founded on needing enemies to have wars to unite us.
Yep. Which, so again, speaking of like turning people who are different in ways that they cannot change into enemies, going back to the whole autism in as a piece of evidence thing. Yeah, the thing is, if every autistic killer is called autistic, but nothing is mentioned about the others being neurotypical, you remember the connection killer autistic, regardless of actual numbers.
Yeah, language is so
and then,
important.
yeah, which allows others to do the same, paving the way. And then, yeah, people also use the PTSD card a bit too lightly. Yeah.
Andreas has a thing. I'll write this down. Can you pull it up?
Yes.
Leonard French. Goodness, you should hear Leonard French's reading and commentary in the court case about the insurrection. Sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
Leonard French insurrection.
And
commentary? Commentary.
Yeah. And also, yeah, those persons were basically having weapons like gorillas. Yeah, there was.
They were monsters.
But then going back to the thing I said about you being relatable, Kitty. Yeah, seeing others struggle and be human makes me feel less bad about messing up and struggling.
Yeah, that gives me such a sense of purpose, and like.
Yeah, exactly. This being perfect humans on social media. Where did that come from? I'm sure when social media was born, it was more innocent. Yeah, I think it was, but
I think people have
not
always
really.
been pretending that everything's fine and
Yeah.
just putting their best foot forward. I mean, it's just human nature to do that.
Yeah, it's like
It's not bad.
I mean, the idea that we have of the 50s housewife is like that's
pure propaganda.
Yeah. Like if you go back and you find, like, you look at ads, like magazine ads from that time, everything was, here are things that make your life easier, but that are easily hidden from other people so that you can look like you're doing it all yourself. That was the majority of inventions aimed at women in the 50s.
These women had come off of a war where all the men were gone and they were running the world.
Yeah.
They were running the factories. They were doing the jobs. They were lifting the weight. And then their husbands came back and they suddenly just had to act to play the role. And there was so much misery. And that's the misery of the 50s led to the insurrection is almost a good word there too, of the 60s.
Yeah.
Just the implosion of the 60s because of all this pent up unhappiness.
Yeah. There's some good came out of the pandemic, with online becoming more of a community again. Yes, yeah. And yeah. It is really rough though that, like,
did you need water?
There are good communities online, but there are communities for everyone online, including the people who we really don't want to be gathering in communities and propping each other up.
Yeah, well, people are gonna find each other. Their spirits attract similar spirits.
Yeah, but it's a lot easier. And like, that was someone else I saw online who mentioned that recently. That it's like, it's interesting that, like, in the early 2000s, it was like before like she said, a lot of like kids from like small town America who were like the only person they knew who was an atheist found each other on the internet and like could form a community around that. And that's a big part of why America has gone from everyone, talking church to a lot of people being okay with being open with, like, actually I don't believe in that stuff. Like before the internet, people didn't really talk about that. And then later on, like the way that like a lot of how much we have learned about the trans experience and trans community has happened in the last 15 years because they found each other on the internet. And that is amazing, because they were people who previously were isolated, didn't
And-
know anyone else like them, and then they found each other.
And
But
their
then this
history
person said,
kept, and their history kept getting burnt down. Like there's
Yeah.
been history. It's not a new
okay,
phenomenon.
yeah, but
okay.
use that's a different thing.
Okay. Carry on.
Because the point here is that, and so those things were, mostly good and positive things. And this person, I can't remember who it was who said this, but someone on the internet was like, and then in 2017, the racists did the same thing. The people who felt isolated because they didn't know anyone else in their immediate vicinity who shared their thoughts and feelings found places online to share them and prop each other up. and it sucks that like the same mechanism that creates a safe space for genuinely disenfranchised in people who are really attacked in most other areas of their life also creates a safe place for the people who are attacking them. And yeah, there isn't really a way to solve that problem easily.
Are you dying?
I'm not dying.
Please don't die. Yes, Andreas, it's not a choice. It's hardwired biology.
Yeah.
So sad how many of us, well, we missed a lot.
Yeah.
Because you were talking for so long.
Sorry.
I'm choking to death.
So we're talking about Leonard. Oki asked who Leonard French is, and Andreas said he's a lawyer and goes through all the legalese. And then Chris said,
it's why I show my messed up art too, but then feel I ought to show just the good stuff because other professional artists do. I'm sure they have hidden messy sketchbooks somewhere. Yeah. I think that's a good example.
I actually recently saw an art YouTuber because like someone had recommended for him to try the Mr. Clean magic eraser that was supposed to be able to like remove watercolor and like certain kinds of paint and stuff. And so then he actually just panned over his paintings that he had abandoned because he was unhappy with them. I was like, okay, so which one of these should I try to erase? Which was just really cool.
Nice to see. Oh yeah, let's go.
Yeah, this was back to your point about
women that actually got to do stuff and then had it ripped away from them, saying, "This is your role now."
Yeah. Yes, I try to focus on the good human spirit. Always be both sides, I guess. Oh, yeah, those like things that bring about good can also bring about bad.
With my art, I use it as communication.
I'm gonna go find a cough drop, actually.
Good idea. Chris says, with my art, I use it as communication. So I try to put these bigger questions into my art. Lately, I haven't found what I want to say, with the world too overwhelming if I stop and really think about it. Yeah, it's like, what is it that we really want to put out there that's worth it? And we actually did a video about that on my YouTubing with Katie channel. It's my most recent video. Is me and Chris talking about putting ourselves out there and the struggle between going too deep and too I can't words, but just trying to find that balance. And Akia says, the flip side is that the internet is also an echo chamber. Yep. And Andrea says, my Instagram is unprocessed photos. Yeah, I used to like have fun with filters, and now I'm like, I don't have energy. Andrea says, I am wanting to be a counter-revolution. Yeah. Can you tell me the context of Scott Christian Sava? Andres says there was a famous American artist in the 50s saying, if you can't find anything within a meter of you, you are not a real artist. That's interesting. As in, like, to be able to find inspiration anywhere.
Yeah. I also like that usually Chris had seen this exact same short that I had apparently.
Oh, that's the context of that.
Yeah, Scott Christian Sava was the artist. Yeah. Yeah, that's the response was everything. Yep, that's exactly him.
Cool. Glad you've come back from dying.
Well, it's just I also think I got the gunk that was stuck in my throat out, so I shouldn't be doing any more coughing.
But the thing that I'm working on in my innerness is to not be angry. Like that the people that stormed the Capitol, they were thinking that they were heroes, not letting them off the hook, but not carrying a bitterness that steals my joy and just makes me feel hopeless about the world. But believing that people can change if they listen, if their hearts can get open to compassion for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so the point that I go with me from that video that I keep recommending that I watched today was that sometimes we need to stop talking to the people we want to change and just start amplifying the voices of the people that those people need to hear.
That's why I do my podcast. One of the big reasons. Amplifying voices of people who've been mistreated and how toxic theology has hurt them, and just putting more and more of that out there so that people can feel less alone in their pain, and so that hopefully somebody else could investigate their beliefs a little closer.
Yeah.
Andres said basically they committed treason, going back to the insurrection, but I feel that same way about the people who misuse God's name when it comes to how they treat people. Mistreating LGBTQ people.
Yeah.
It's treason. I grew up thinking and hearing that to say, oh my God, that's taking the Lord's name in vain. You're going to go to hell if you do that. That's the unforgivable sin. Blasphemy of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
No, it's not saying, oh my God. It's being cruel to people in God's name.
The best explanation we heard for that was in a sermon we heard years ago, but it stuck with me, is basically like using the Lord's name in vain is basically it's signing checks that he's not willing to cover. Like that is using the Lord's name in vain. It's like because it also came into the whole thing of like, whatever you ask for in my name you shall receive. It's like and that was explained to me in a way that's like, oh, this makes sense to me, because like I come from a rural community. Like my dad's a farmer who knows a lot of like store owners that have like that he often buys things from for the farm, and he has store credit with all of them, which means that when he needs something from one of those stores, he can send me there. I can go in, I can say his name, and they will give me the thing and put it on his credit. But if I go in there and I start just grabbing stuff that I want and then put it on his credit, that's not going to work out. And that's what it means. That's what it means to ask for things in God's name, and trying to do the other thing, that's taking the Lord's name in vain.
Yeah. Gia! Yay!
And it's not my job to judge. They have misinterpreted their role. The only judge is the Lord himself. Yeah.
Gia is awesome, and she sent me some books some months ago. Hey, I've been here. He's shooting a new profile picture. She and I kind of forgot about one of them, and was finally picking it back up again, and I was like, yes. Rachel Held Evans, Wholehearted Faith. I wanna find it really quick because it goes along with this and the whole revolution that we want, the counter revolution. So,
Yeah.
1 moment, please. Morton is responsible for the music. Bump shot. Okay. It was about how Mary's prayer was so countercultural that she was the powerful has. Here you go. Sometimes I forget that this remarkable woman prayed a prayer that didn't make any requests. Instead, she simply called it like she saw it, proclaiming in ridiculously bold present tense that the great reversal had already arrived. Shouldn't we echo such holy audacity? The powerful have been humbled. The vulnerable have been lifted up. God has made a home among the people. God has made a home with us in all our beautiful complexity and in all our magnificent mess. I feel like that's not exactly.
But yeah,
it's calling out the better world, like whatever people believe in. It's in the Neil Gaiman show Sandman. There's an extra episode with cats. It's about dreaming a better world.
The dream of 1,000 cats.
Yeah. So it's like it's not about faith if it's not that word doesn't resonate with you, but it's about calling out what's wrong and claiming what you want to be true.
Yeah.
Because you're dreaming it enough and you get enough people to dream it with you.
So yes, new profile picture is a photo, a wooden rose painting that's featured on the Domplatz in Münster. It says, "Ein Mensch ist ein Mensch ist ein Mensch."
I like it.
Which is, this mirrors a rose is a rose is a rose, but it is a person is a person is a person. Because, like or a human is a human is a human.
I feel like there's something deep in there.
Yeah, it's because it's
accepting people for who they are.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Which goes well with what we've been saying today.
Yeah. Andrei said the girl from Ipanema goes walking because that was the elevator music you did for me.
Yeah, that's just my go-to if I'm supposed to be doing music, which in some ways is sad, because again, talking about like white supremacy and minorities and such, is that like I watched this really interesting video about it a while ago. I think it must have been Adam Neely, who is great music theory YouTuber. So I think he was the one who like picked it apart and talked about how there's like so much to that song in the original recordings of it that gets lost in like how it became standardized and like when it was first written down, because there's like this whole like there's a lot to it that just got lost when white people got a hold of that song, which is really sad. This Andreas says it's such an overused piece of music. Yeah, but yeah, and he also says Adam Neely is awesome. Yeah, I think it was him. It might have been someone else, but I'm pretty sure it was him. And certainly it's a thing that he would do because I love that he's the whole talking about how the only way to not be racist is to be anti-racist, and a big part of what he does is like going against the very white supremacist mindset that has existed in music theory for so long, and being like, hey, the way other cultures do music is not in any way worse than the way white people do music, and is often better. And like really, really going out of his way to lift up the music of other cultures.
Oh yeah. That was another thing that was really cool about Miss Marvel, getting exposed to Middle Eastern music.
Yeah. Well, it's not
Middle Eastern. It's
no.
Closer to India, so
yeah.
But
so,
is India not part of the Middle East? See how
No.
see how ignorant I am? I'm so ignorant. But
it's
that's okay because I'm not apathetic, so I can learn.
It's South Asia, like, I mean, or we can also say, I mean, but I think because it's there was probably like there especially because Pakistan is a Muslim country, so there is like some cultural exchange with the Middle East there too. So I'm not gonna pretend to know enough about this to talk about it. So I'm just gonna
leave it at that.
Yes, like, but Pakistan does not count as Middle East,
okay.
But it probably has some cultural exchange with it. Yes.
I keep looking over and frowning at what I'm looking at because I'm paranoid that my freaking cats are chewing on cords. So, yeah. Andrea says, one of the most fascinating music videos I've seen recently was a video with Bob Clearmountain deconstructing the mix of Bruce Springsteen's Born in the USA.
Born in the USA is
what a beautifully misunderstood song.
Yes.
It's been claimed by the white supremacists.
Yes. It's such a misinterpreted lyric. Yeah. Because it's I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's about like mainly about the abandoned Vietnam vets, isn't it?
Oh, I think so.
I'm pretty sure that's the whole thing. It's like it's the people who were born in the USA. Yeah. It's about the treatment of Vietnam veterans. Yeah.
You're gonna be a hero.
USA. Yeah, this like be proud that you're American. But give everything for your country, which will absolutely not give you anything back. Nope. He did. So he did the Walter Mountain did the original mix. He's the original producer. Okay, that would be an interesting perspective to get. I can see that. Yeah.
Now I want to listen to that song and get more context of it.
Baby is due
end of November.
Yes. Possibly beginning of December, but we're hoping for a slightly early birth.
As we jump into October, I'm like, okay, October, my last full month pregnant. My last full month.
Yeah.
Because Morton is gonna maybe need to go away at the end of the month.
Yeah.
And I'll be like 35-ish weeks along then. So it could happen, but it can't happen without you there. I demand it.
I demand satisfaction. Sorry, that's just like complete change of subject. Like that's
excuse me.
Just because I watch on Dropout College Humor's streaming service. They have a D&D show where their current season is like if sorry it's like Regency era but with fae and fairies and things, and like a couple of them are like absolute scoundrels, and so like one of the first scenes of the entire show was someone walking up to one of the characters, like I don't think she actually slapped him, but basically he's going, "I demand satisfaction." So then that's been stuck in my head ever since, that phrase, "I demand satisfaction." I want to challenge people to duels, except I don't want to fight duels.
That's the problem of being a pacifist who likes the idea of. That's why you role play. Morton would go to do something about his thing to become a teacher.
Yeah, it's
Defend his.
I'm writing a research paper, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to present it remotely or if I will need to be, because I'm doing this course sort of remotely, because I have to retake a course, but the course right now, this semester, the course isn't offered at my campus. It's only offered at the main campus in Uppsala, but it's fine because it's a individual, like it's a research project, so it's just me and a writing partner working together, nothing happening in the classroom except for then at the very end of the course when you need to present your papers. So that's what I might have to go up to Uppsala to do. Going back to Born in the USA, the cool thing is to hear the anger in Bruce's voice.
Ooh. It's something so powerful to hear the emotion.
Oh, what is that cat doing? That cat is just scratching the wall and knocking stuff over. It's the other cat that we need to keep an eye on.
It's a really...
Oh, he snuck out of there.
Okay. It's a really good thing that the house was already damaged and colored on and things. And
that was the like when I first came to like check this house out to see if we could rent it, I came in and I saw crayon marks on the walls, and I was like, okay, I feel good about this.
And just imperfection in general.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. If I do go up there, I might try and see Andreas again.
Andreas, will you share the link in a message or something? Because that sounds like a really cool video.
Bob Claremountain, Born in the USA.
I guess I could also just write it down and look it up too. That's an option. Bob Clearmountain. That sounds like an indigenous name. Oh, if you check out my community,
he sent you to the Nostral WhatsApp group.
Okay, if you go to my community tab, I shared a link to a song that is super powerful. That's going to be the topic for the next podcast of how on reservations in that area, girls, women, two-spirit people, cats. I'm trying to talk about a serious thing here. They don't get justice. People go missing and are killed, and they don't get justice. They don't get found. It's the statistics are very, very skewed.
Yeah.
And so I talked to Kenny Lee Lewis again, and she shared
because he was part of a benefit concert.
Yeah. It was not just a benefit thing. It was a very fine line between entertainment and raising awareness and to honor and heal with people who'd lost family members.
Right.
So they incorporated a lot of their traditional beliefs and their drums and their chants to make this passing possible, a peaceful passing according to their traditions.
So, keep your eyes open for that coming out in the next whatever timeline.
The goal is by Thursday.
Okay.
I've been kind of aiming for a Wednesday or Thursday podcast and a Saturday or Sunday vlog. That's been kind of the deal.
The cat got a hold of
A panty liner.
That's not good for cats.
Well, I guess
Oh.
on that note,
Uh,
cool. Thanks for sharing the links into this. And on that note, we should probably get going.
yes. But it's been a pleasure.
Yes. It's so good to share and hear your thoughts and want to make the world a better place together. Yeah. So, yes. Thank you for being here. Hugs. Nostrils of death.